Guys, it's Rachel. Today is garden tour day. It's a little cold, a little rainy outside, but we're gonna do garden tour on time anyway. And we'll get a look at a beautifully crisp, wet garden. Per usual, we're starting out at the far end with the carrots and the peas. You can see I've got a lot of lovely pods coming in. I've been harvesting off of these so far. Keeping track of my harvest, I've gotten 15 pods off of my 10 plants here. And in between the peas are of course my carrots. It's a mix of Black Nebula and Auxhart carrots. And they are starting to really take off, especially right over here. They're looking all fluffy and nice. So next to the peas and carrots is the onion slash tomato slash pepper slash everything bed. I've got some good growth going on. Everything's recovering from the transplant for the most part. And I've added in a few companion plants. I've got lettuce leaf basil here. You can see there's a purple basil hiding back there. And I have unfortunately lost a pepper plant already. I'm not sure what happened. It just wilted completely, totally died. Everything else looking mostly okay. This Zulu pepper here is the only other one that's looking worse for the wear, but it seems like it's gonna pull through. Still waiting to be transplanted. I have an orange hat tomato here. He's gonna go in as soon as it dries up. And the onions are honestly looking really great. Let's look at one of the biggest ones over here. Let's see if I can show you. Now it's kind of a maze to reach you guys through all of this. You can see there's quite a bulb going on down there. Yeah, y'all can see that. So next to all of that, we still have the radishes, which are starting to flower beautifully. We'll be getting some seeds from those eventually. We've got another row of carrots coming in here, and we have turnips. These are actually starting to look quite nice, and I'm getting excited for actually getting a turnip harvest. Next to all of that, we still have the kale here and the spinach. I've been pulling off of these kale plants, keeping them small, putting them in smoothies. It's been pretty great, and I'm gonna keep eating off of them as long as they keep producing. Something interesting though, this Amish paste tomato here, it's got these curly leaves on top, and all but one of my Amish paste tomatoes looks like this. Maybe y'all can tell me, is this curly top disease? Did something happen? Or am I being paranoid? All the rest of my tomatoes look pretty great and flat on top. It's just 3 of my Amish paste tomatoes that are doing this, which makes me think maybe it's not curly top, maybe it's just a thing with the variety. But then I have the one Amish paste that I'll show y'all in a minute that's in the yard that didn't do this. Alright, over by the trellis, I've got my beans. This one plant is finally big enough to start climbing up the trellis, so that's exciting. And next to it over here, we have the Malabar spinach. Reminder, that's not a real spinach. It's a vine that is supposedly spinach-like, and it's supposed to produce really, really pretty, like red purple fruits on it. So I'm excited to see that go up the trellis as well. Behind me is the garlic and onion bed, looking about the same as it always does, to be honest. You can see, here's another good example of the onions starting to come in. I'm really excited to actually have onions. Even some of the little ones you can see poking up. And as a note, these few little carrots sticking up here, these are actually carrots that I left the January harvest that I did. There's a video on that. I pulled out a lot of my carrots right before it got really cold because I wasn't sure if they would survive, but I left a few little teeny ones, and they have since grown into these, which actually have little mini carrot roots underneath them. There's still a couple of things here inside the greenhouse. I have these sad looking tomato plants that they got sprayed with weed killer way back when, and they looked like they were gonna die, but they have not died yet. They're not looking so great, but they're not dying, so I guess I'll keep holding on to them and see what happens to them. I have a very sad basil plant that went to seed and then decided it was also going to get woody. So that's one of my lettuce leaf basils lost already. I've got more orange hats, and these actually are having a similar problem as the Amish paste. They're looking all curly on top. The one that was out in the garden is the only one that doesn't look like this on top. So over here next to it, this is bee balm. I forget which kind of bee balm it is that I planted. What is this? This is spotted bee balm. That needs to go out into the garden soon-ish because I'm sure it's not going to get much bigger than that in this little cup. I've got some little stevia sprouts here, and I have a couple of pepper plants that just never really grew. These are planted at the same time as everything else, and they are just itty bitty babies still. I see no reason to throw them out yet. Let's call this the bee team. Waiting, standing by, just in case something happens. I already lost that one pepper plant, like I told y'all. And I was thinking, okay, what if I put another pepper in there? But then I realized I want so much more basil than I have, so I'm probably gonna plop a store-bought basil plant into that spot. Almost forgot to show you guys how nice the sage looks. Isn't that just gorgeous? Look at these beautiful leaves. Should harvest some of that soon and dry it out. Keep a good stock of that to go with all of my winter squash. My favorite thing to do with it actually is to put it in the butternut squash pasta sauce recipe that I have. Also, if y'all remember, last week there was a tree here that had fallen. You can see where it hit the roof of that building next to me. They came and took that out. They also took out, you can see little stump there, little stump there, lots of the little trees around. So now my yard is a lot sunnier than it used to be. You can see that's my fence. We can peek through the hole in the fence into my yard right here. Yeah, this eventually is gonna get fixed, so they say. Everything in here has been shuffled around because of that tree. I didn't want them trying to take that out and accidentally having it roll this way into the yard and onto my plants, or any of the branches for that matter. So everything's been spread out a little bit after being condensed into that side of the yard while they did the work. But everything is looking really nice. The potatoes still going strong even after being knocked down by that storm the other day. Same one that knocked down the tree, knocked down some of my potatoes. This is my Amish paste tomato that is actually looking like a normal tomato. You can see, looks very healthy. And that's why it's in the yard, because it was an extra, and I noticed that it was the only one that looked normal after everything was transplanted. So I thought, in case it's curly top, this one's gonna be protected. Over here we have the tomatillos. Tomatillos have been flowering, and that's beautiful. Hopefully start getting some fruit setting on those soon. Here's another orange hat tomato that I put in its own little pot. It's another one with the curly top, but I was gonna see if potting it up helped a little bit. This is actually a super dwarf variety. I think it's supposed to get between 6 and 9 inches tall total. So a little pot like this should do it for its whole life, but we'll see what happens. Again, if any of y'all know like what's going on with this, feel free to comment on that, because I really just don't know why it's looking like this. So with the new shading, or lack of shade, in the yard, I've moved all the herbs closer to the fence line over here. Previously they were more like in this area, and the tree, which was here, shaded them back this way, but without that I've had to move them closer to the fence so that they're a little more in the shade, and there's more sunroom for things like basil that I've potted up. This is the original basil from my basil propagation video, if you remember. This is the one that I took a cutting last year, re-rooted it on my windowsill, kept it in a little pot over winter, and took another cutting from that. So I have one of these in the big garden, and this one sitting out here, the original. And then I have all the pepper plants. So let's go through and talk through which hot pepper plants I have, because I have them all labeled now, I can tell you. I have 2 of each type. This one is a Sugar Rush Peach. These ones are actually the lightest colored peppers that I have. All the rest of them are getting darker leaves, and the Sugar Rushes are staying a little lighter. Again, not really sure if that's just a variety thing or if they're not getting enough nutrients somewhere. Been giving them fish emulsion, so I think they're good. I've also got, let's see, who are you? This one is a Tabasco. I've got 2 Tabascos. This one's a Jigsaw. You can see its leaves. This is one of the ones that got sprayed like a little bit from that weed killer I was talking about. But it seems to be recovering. Like, it hasn't stopped growing. It's got some new little growth down there at the bottom. I've got jalapeno right here. Who else do I have? Oh, here we go. This one's another jalapeno. Over here we've got an Anaheim. This is a better looking jigsaw pepper. These leaves are supposed to turn really pretty colors as the plant gets bigger. Here's another Sugar Rush Peach. Again, lighter colored leaves. And the one that's really taking off is my Serrano. Look at all that branching. This guy is gonna be massive. Alright, so I have some bush beans here and some over here. Trying to see what works better for them in terms of sunlight and also space, because I like to have this space for my hose here. I've also got my pumpkin. Again, this is my one and only pumpkin that I got from the seeds that I saved last year. I'm really excited to see what kind of pumpkin this produces, but so far, so good. I've got even more cucumbers coming up, and I've actually put in a new trellis here. This is something I found like back in the woods when I was clearing out some kudzu. Spoiler alert, this is one of the kudzu roots that I dug up. But there'll be a whole video on that, so stay tuned. And I also used old tomato cages, like those triangle kind, and I just opened them up and stuck them along the fence line so that everything will have something to climb on. And I don't necessarily normally talk about the strawberries because nothing much was happening, but I am actually getting flowers and maybe some strawberries this year. I can hope that they're better than the wild strawberries that I have in my yard. They were itty bitty little things and they tasted horrible. I put one in my mouth and I had to spit it out because it was just so bad. Here's one of those wild strawberries I was talking about. You can see it looks like it would be tasty, but alas. So this is my garden. This was summer week 2 of the tour. If you're trying to go back and watch, I did summer week 1, which was actually week 5. So this is total week 6 that I've been doing these garden tours. So if you're curious, go back and check out what it was before, how it's been evolving. I used to really love going back and watching the big gardeners' garden tours, especially in the winter. If you're watching this in the winter, it's almost like crack to be able to go back and look at all of the beautiful gardens from the summer. Anyways, I hope you guys really enjoyed, and if you did, I really appreciate your likes and also your subscribes. I cannot stop raving about how amazing the community here has been. Every one of you watching who's ever commented on my videos, I appreciate you so much because you give me so much positivity and encouragement as I'm going through this journey. I don't pretend to be a professional gardener because I'm not. Most of the time I really just don't know what I'm doing. And so you guys coming back, watching my videos, being supportive, it really does make a difference to me. And if you're new, you're gonna want to get to know these people because they are so nice. I also wanted to take a moment and tease out that I am thinking about coming up with an official name for my garden, so I will hopefully be decided and announcing that soon. So stay tuned for that video. And with that, when I decide the name, I'll be launching an Instagram account, so watch for that. I would love to have you following me so I can share more, often. I could share more often with you guys, share more updates, and so you can see more of the little stuff that goes on in the garden day to day. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time, and until then, happy gardening. Looks like I got out of the garden just in time. Seems they gave you a chore right between rainstorms. Oh, that's so relaxing now. That's the gutter that the tree broke when it came down.